there, and welcome to an installment of Harry Pedigo's online lesson videos. Today we're going to be working on the G major scale and proper technique for playing violin. And one of the things that we went over in class is holding the instrument, and we talked about how you want to really use your collarbone and your chin and really put a weight down in between those two and kind of be able to hold it just with your chin and collarbone, because that frees up your hand for making notes and exotic fingerings on the violin. So starting out, maybe it's just a good thing to practice that, and after you've done that and gotten comfortable with that, move on to the bow. And we've talked about the bow, holding it with the thumb there and with the pinky right on the top of the wood there. Index finger kind of as a slant, right? That is sort of the traditional Suzuki method style of holding the bow. It might be kind of weird at first, but it'll really pay off learning to do that the correct way. So we've also talked about, just to kind of refresh all of our memories here, the way the violin's tuned. It's tuned in fifth, so you have a G string, a D string, an A string, and an E string. And we talked a little bit about chord theory too, and how chords are made up of a first, third, and fifth in a scale. So if you were playing a G chord, you'd have a G, you'd have a B, and then you'd have a D. And so when you play the first and fifth notes, you actually make sort of a chord that way. So the violin lends itself to playing two strings at once, And you hear that a lot in old-time fiddle music. There's droning kind of, like in the tune June Apple, for instance. The kind of droning kind of sound is something we hear a lot in traditional American-style fiddle music. But to move on to what we need to be talking about is the G major scale. And I put little stickers on everyone's violin to indicate where your fingers should go, because the violin doesn't have frets on it. A guitar, there are frets that are marked by a little metallic piece, and it's very clear as to where your fingers need to go. The violin, one of the things that makes it difficult is the lack of those. So you are learning to associate the correct pitch of a note with the placement of the finger on the fretboard. And the way we do that is first by using the stickers and making it so you can recognize the pitch, the correct pitch of those notes associated with a fingering. And then later on you'll be able to do that by ear. So let's go through and kind of play the G major scale as we've been doing in class together. Let's play the first octave of it, and we're going to start on a down bow, always, right? So we'll start with an open G, first finger, up bow, down bow second, third finger, open D, up bow first, down bow second, up bow third. Then back down, third finger, second, first, open, third finger on the G, second, first, open. That's the first octave of the G major scale. So I'd encourage you to go through and practice that with a down bow. You could do slow bowing, or you could do the taka taka stop stop. That would be like. That'll really teach you to control your bowing and be cognizant of where, make sure that you are maintaining the proper posture with your bow. And also, when you're playing these notes on the violin, you want to make sure that your intonation, meaning the way that you're pressing your finger down on the string, isn't sloppy. We talked about bending the knuckle in a particular way, which fosters having good intonation by means of having the finger land right on the tip, and you're very deliberate in the placement of your finger. So that's something to think about while you're doing it. Also, always make sure you start on that down bow. And when you're playing on the violin, you want to keep the bow right in the middle. Here's the fretboard. It ends right there. There's the bridge. You want to keep it straight and in the middle of that. Once you get comfortable doing the first octave of the G major scale, we can move on and we can play it like this, right? We can play the second octave. So we have G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Then it goes back to A. So we'll go G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we'll be playing two sets of the scale, if you will. So it'll sound like this. Ready? You're familiar with this already. Again, A. Repeat this note. That would be what you would practice, and practice that with the taka taka stop stop as well. That would be helpful. That really gets you familiar with all the different strings, the G, D, A, and E strings, right? Later on, I'd like everybody to get on the same track with that, and then I'd like to introduce a simple melody, which we can work on in the key of G, which will sort of reinforce some of those techniques that we've been working on, okay? Until then, let's just recap. We talked about holding the bow in the proper way with the pinky on the top, the thumb there, right? We talked about making sure that the violin bow is right in the middle of the violin, right? We talked about using our chin and our collarbone to really hold down the violin so that it frees up our fingers. We talked about the taka taka stop stop starting on a down bow. And we've talked about the first two octaves of the G major scale, which really gets you familiar with all the different strings. We talked about making sure that our fingers we're making notes with the very tips of them to ensure that we have good intonation. And I hope that helps us kind of stay in shape musically during this fair break. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me on Facebook, and I'll be posting another lesson video as soon as we get everybody on the same track with the G major scale and fundamental violin technique.